It's Fully Threaded Radio, episode 192.
If the car companies go on strike for an extended period of time, there's going to be no inventory of new cars, which means there's going to be no inventory of used cars, which means next year at this time when you and I get on the phone, I'm going to be driving a car with 240,000 miles on it.
Let's hope that the reps continue to be able to take that to another level, and we'll see. MW has had its ups and downs. There are companies that have been good for them and companies that, quite frankly, have gone the opposite way. So
right,
we'll see what happens.
I am expecting things to get a little choppy again first half of next year. Recessions, we talk about them as they're, the boogeyman, but I think they're pretty natural things. They serve a purpose. They get things to kind of reset. Frankly, the only way that we are going to avoid all the pain of long-term inflation is actually to trigger a recession, in my opinion. And my personal opinion is when we get into 25, we've got lots of room and runway ahead of us, potentially for the rest of the decade. So what I'm telling my team through the budgeting process and through team meetings is
it's time for Fully Threaded Radio.
It is Fully Threaded Radio, voice of the FCH Sourcing Network. If you buy, sell, manufacture, import threaded fasteners, or you're focused on the industry for some other reason, well, you're in the right place. So glad you're here, folks. Eric Dudas with you, and the co-host of Fully Threaded Radio is with us as well. Father of the legendary FCH scrubber software, he's Brian Musker. Hey, Bri, you doing all right?
I'm doing great, actually. And I'm immersed in setting my own standards for things that seem to be nearly impossible to define, like shoulder bolts. And the scrubber is learning lots at the moment.
Yes, it's a never-ending battle that you fight, especially these days as we've got all these scrubber projects coming. And I tell you, that's turned into a huge part of our operation over here, and it's keeping us pretty focused on fasteners ourselves.
It is very... very fastener-centric around here.
Thanks again for joining us today, folks. This is episode 192 of the Fully Threaded Radio podcast. We're publishing this time on September 20th, 2023. And I tell you, this one, going into the Vegas show, which is right around the corner, it's about as packed of a episode as we've had. And so, therefore, we're going to have limited Brian and Eric prattle on this one. And when you hear this lineup, you'll understand why. We're going to kick things off with a conversation with Don, the amazing Shan. Now, he's got lots of solutions, as everyone knows, but these days he's also got an S problem.
Yeah, like the good old FCH in a different way. Fasteners Clearinghouse with an S.
That's an albatross we've been carrying since, we got this thing going. But anyway, ran into Don at the Screw Open, the NCFA golf event. And yeah, I said, man, you got to get on here and tell everyone what you're doing these days. So that's how we'll start off today. Now, on the Fastener News Report, this time Mike McNulty once again steals the show with a powerhouse conversation with Endries CEO Michael Knight. And they're going to pour over the shocking August FDI numbers. And I'll tell you, if you've been zoning out in a daze of pessimism lately with all the crappy FDI readings, well,
right.
Well, this report's going to refocus and energize you, so don't miss it. And Michael Knight has to be one of the strongest FDI analysts, guest analysts we've had. You learn a lot all the way around on this one. Plus, McNulty's got a wonderful back page report. Now, heading into the news, we'll hear from Kerr Lakeside boss Charlie Kerr. Now, he's always dropping news on us, and this time he muscled his way into a cameo appearance to give us his impression of the UAW strike that just kicked off this week. And as usual, Charlie's got his own unique take on that.
I'd be interested to hear what he thinks of the 32 hours for 40 plus this increase.
Well, I really had to rein him in on this one. As you know, he could have gone on for a long time, but you'll get his spin. On the feature segment today, Kris Kolb and Brian Oliveira of Patriot Bolt join us. It's possible they're a duo you're not familiar with. Well, they're Texas-based specialty manufacturer, and they recently launched a new podcast. It's called Bolts and Hose. And before you get any ideas, they are actually in the hose business. So these guys are a lot of fun, and you'll get to meet them on the episode today. Oh, if all that isn't enough, Carmen Vertullo's got the Fastener Training Minute. Joining him for part 3 of his series on tapping, he's got Jorge Munoz of Ababa Bolt.
Oh, really? Okay. Long time old friends those are.
Ababa's been on the FCH network for many years, and I'm not sure if Carmen is wrapping up the series or if he's got one more after this, but if you followed along so far, this is the 3rd installment. So all that stuff is, I don't even know how long this one's going to be, Bry, but fans of the shorter versions of our podcast are going to be disappointed. And
So Bob Bear's going to have it on double speed play to get through it then.
Yeah, you're probably right on that. He's Captain Efficiency, isn't he?
Right.
So moving things right along, we'll hat tip all of our partners for this episode. We've got a fine list of them. And, Bri, that's your department.
Oh, yeah, it is. The title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio are Brighton Best International, Gerbil Fasteners, and Star Stainless Screw Company. Brighton Best International, tested, tried, and true. Gerbil Fasteners, quality the first time. Star Stainless Screw Company, right off the shelf. Also sponsoring Fully Threaded Radio are Buckeye Fasteners, BTM Manufacturing, Eurolink Fastener Supply Service, InSequel Software, J-Land Franco, Parker Fasteners, 3Q Inc., Volt Industrial Plastics, Worth Industry North America, and Solution Industries, home of Solution Man. So think of these sponsors next time you're trying to find some fasteners, okay? Think of them first.
Reach out to us anytime, folks. The email address is ftr@fullythreaded.com. We welcome your comments, and boy, we've gotten a few really unexpected ones lately, so, they're all welcome.
Well, if they say that the podcast is too long, they're definitely going to be disappointed then.
People don't usually chime in about that particular comment, but that we usually get that at the shows or, when we bump into people.
And it's actually very split fairly evenly between people who sort of listen to Fully Threaded on a flight and they actually could have it go on longer, and others who are on a shorter drives and they need it to be shorter. It's it's across the board.
Well, there's no doubt that it's a TikTok-minded world in a lot of places.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we're still doing long-form interview-style stuff and talk radio-formatted stuff, and there's room for that shorter format, and we keep threatening about it. Hey, we talk about this a little bit when we get with Kris and Bryce later in the episode, so we won't spend too much time on the inside baseball aspect of it right here. But since we do have a long episode today, why don't we get things going at this point and
get rid of the predominantly part and go straight into fasteners.
Exactly. Thanks again for clicking in, everyone. It's Fully Threaded
Radio.
Brian and Eric, your online Fastener Talk Radio brothers in thread. Fully Threaded Radio.
At Brighton Best, we continue to expand our product offerings to better meet your requirements. In addition to BBI's expanding stainless steel fasteners, Brighton Best International is now offering a wide selection of hose clamps, silicone bronze, and brass fasteners, available in all regional locations. Visit the BBI website to view the educational hose clamp video now available on the BBI homepage. Tested, tried, and true. We are Brighton Best International.
Gerbil Fasteners increases efforts to maintain its reputation as the leading rivet source with a large inventory of parts and expedited delivery options. We have over $10 million worth of global inventory in stock at all times and pride ourselves on same-day or next-day shipping options that are available to all our customers. Gerbil Fasteners, the leading rivet source.
Stainless Dan here, coming to you from Star Stainless. Star quality is more than products, just the way Wayne wanted it to be. It's simple. We're Star.
Hey, this is Matthew Boyd, forging the future at Parker Fasteners out of Buckeye, Arizona, and you're listening to Brian and Eric on Fully Threaded Radio.
Brian and Eric, your online fastener amigos, back with you. Well, fans of Old Rusty Bolt beer are going to be very happy, Bri.
Good.
I know. Ran into Tony Martinez of Buckeye Fasteners. A lot of people I ran into at the NCFA golf outing. Anyway, he was really happy because they just inked the deal to get some kegs out on the show floor at IFE this year. So what do you know?
Oh, nice.
Have something to wash down all those Vegemite crackers you're going to be handing out, Brian.
Yes, that would help, actually, and very appropriate.
I guess it makes sense that people would wash down Vegemite with beer. I mean, isn't Vegemite actually a beer byproduct? Some kind of a yeast thing, right?
Yeah, it is. It's a byproduct of all the I don't know what the tailings, I guess they call them. I've forgotten what they call the stuff you cook up to actually get the alcohol out.
Yeast slag, isn't it?
Something like that. Yeah. It just, I don't know. I don't think any description is actually makes it sound that good. So it's
That's because it isn't, Bri.
Oh, yes, it is. Yeah, in this case, you can make a silk purse out of a sow's ear.
All right, so we'll set that aside for a moment. What kind of crackers did Lynn get for this year? Do we not know yet?
We do not know yet. Okay.
All right. That's booth 1066 this year, folks. It's the FCH Sourcing Network. And of course, we're talking about the International Fastener Expo, Buckeye Fasteners, as usual. Man, they've got an all-new booth. Actually, a lot of our partners are going to be there in really sharp-looking booths, a lot of good handouts. If Linfast Group is anything like Fastener Fair, the padding under the carpet is going to be, it'll be like walking on a cloud when you go for your Stelfast monkey. Anyway, I'm trying to do too much at once here, Bri. The point is, IFE's coming up. Buckeye will be there with the Old Rusty Bolt. And
Good.
Let's see, October 9th through the 10th, Mandalay Bay, right, Bri?
Yeah, it is. Yep, that'll be good. Can't wait to get there, actually.
All kinds of excitement going on this year. We won't go into too much of it on this episode because we've got so much else going on. But yeah, a few big headlines we'll be covering on the next podcast.
Yes, there will be.
So again, FCH is in 1066. Now, originally, I was thinking we were going to do a much different thing this year, and you were supposed to be in Australia. I was going to just pop in for a day. We weren't going to have a booth. Then things changed. So as it turns out, we're not going to have our full booth, with the lights and everything. We're going back to old school, which is the banner and also very modest for us, but full supply of Vegemite, right?
Yeah, I got all that when we went over to Australia in February.
Now, are you taking Marco Rodriguez's idea from last time, or are you going to do these recordings of the initial reaction once a newbie sinks their teeth into this?
Yeah, Marco's, he's convinced that we should film this and film the various people tasting it, because he thinks the whole facial part of it should be really interesting.
Now, we did this a few years back. We had some fun with it, but
yeah.
He was actually envisioning something more elaborate. Anyway, we'll work something out. Lynn's going to be prancing around with her mic. And if you're there, folks, and you see her, don't be shy. Get yourself on the next episode, potentially.
Yeah, right.
She always does a fine job of gathering all that up for us.
Persevering, should we say, through some of the people who always have another excuse for why they can't be recorded.
Yeah, based on the welcome bash, you'd never realize how many shy people we have in this industry.
Yeah, I know. This is true.
Of course, going into this year's welcome bash will be the golf tournament again, and that was sold out quite a while ago. Looking forward to seeing who's coming out on top on that. Now, another headline to drop in here. I mentioned this NCFA Screw Open a couple times already. Well, this year's FTR winner was Gary Graham of boltsandnuts.com.
Oh, cool.
So congratulations for your crappy play this year, Gary.
He would just smile, I would think.
I think he might have gone out of his way to pick it up this year, At a certain point in the game, they just sort of throw it all away. Anyway, we all have a lot of fun with that. It's not serious. It's all fun.
Yeah, it is. And it's been fun. It's been going on for a fair while, actually.
And when we're not doing that, we're not doing scrubber projects. What we do is the FCH sourcing network, fastenersclearinghouse.com.
Correct.
Get out there anytime you need to find a hard-to-find part or something's out of stock, or maybe you're even shopping vendors. FCH is a great place to pick up some potential new sources. Free to search and source, FCH Sourcing Network. Most of you know that. Thank you for using it, by the way. And the partners who bring you the podcast, well, let's just say they're supporting the platform too, because it's all one big thing for us. And this episode's one big thing, so we're going to jump right into this conversation with Don the Amazing Shan.
Yes.
Had a lot of fun with this one. Most of you know the backstory with Don. Of course, he's a former partner of Solution Industries. He and co-founder John split a few years ago before John finally sold it off to Linfast. But Don is hugely knowledgeable, particularly in the Midwest, but he knows people all over this industry. He's been doing it for many, many years, knows a lot of the tricks of the trade. So let's hear what his latest endeavor is all about. And Don the Amazing Shan is back with us. Hey, brother.
Hey, how are you?
We're good, thank you.
How's things? Holy 190 some episodes.
We're getting there, yeah. Well, things are good. And we covered a little bit of that when we saw you the other day out there at the Screw Open, the NCFA event. Glad to see you there, man.
Yeah, it was much better than the 120-degree heat index in Chicago. It was two completely different things.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's very unusual for Chicago.
That wasn't even enjoyable.
No.
I heard that was brutal. And, of course, the NCFA event typically gets rained on, but this year it was just about as perfect as you could get. And you were out there. Who were you shooting with this time?
I was with Andrew Nagy from Solution. I was with Morgan Rudolph, part of the Rudolph team and the reps in Boston, New England area. And the last guy was a friend of Morgan's.
And you guys did not take home the FTR award. Come on, I knew you were in the running.
Well, no, that was one of our goals at the beginning. We said, whatever we do, we're going to cheat. We're not going to take that thing home this year. I think I still have the 30-pack sitting on my back deck from when I won it the 1 year. That'd be 10 years ago.
Oh, boy.
Good. Well, I wouldn't try and open any of it, okay?
It's already Beechwood age to begin with.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
it doesn't need any more aging past today or so.
Well, it was a fun day. Was any business whatsoever accomplished out there this time?
We had a lot of fun. I mean, I was surprised at after the golf that everybody sat around and ate their ribs and whatever food that was there, and it left so fast. It emptied out in a half an hour. Back in the day, I can remember 2-3 hours of mingling and kind of networking a little bit, and I was surprised how everybody left real quick.
Well, the mojo wasn't there necessarily in that after party, you're right, Don, but it was definitely out there on the course, and nothing you can do about that. But Dave Audia, as usual, did a fantastic job as the, what do they call it, the event chairman. He's never going to be able to walk away from that, even though he's not the president. Mike Robinson is these days, and the whole NCFA board, I think, did a admirable job as usual. And actually, it was Gary Graham with, what is it, boltsandnuts.com or Nuts and Bolts? What is it?
It's Nuts and Bolts, I believe, one of the two.
Well, they're doing really well, but not in the golf department. Well, what was the scuttlebutt out there, Don? Come on, there's usually a theme at these things that emerges, and what were you hearing out there while you were mingling?
Well, not for me. I had a couple customers doing some expedites, which is unusual. I hadn't seen a lot of people in a while, so it was a little bit of catch up for me. Some of them guys I haven't seen in 30 years.
Wow.
And either they're back in the business or back in the industry or with a different company this time. And it was good to see them. I haven't seen a lot of people there. So for me, it was here I am, here's what I'm doing now type of thing. And it's more of a setup kind of thing for me. So they got to know I'm back in the business. And give me a call later, and we'll go over some of the details. So that's basically what it was for me.
Right. And you were on the show. Oh, geez, I should have looked this up before. But we were talking with you. What was it, a year back or so? And you were really making your initial re-entry. This,
yes,
of course, is after your hiatus from After Solution Industries, and I think most listeners are familiar with that whole story. And then you were doing that for a while. You're doing something different now, which we'll get into in a second. But these kinds of events are just fantastic for that. Who did you run into that you hadn't seen in a long time?
Well, I was walking by a cart, and some gentleman gives the old, "Hey, it's a service bolt and nut guy." And I went, I started with service bolt and nut back in the 70s. And I no one knows me from service bolt. If they do, it's somebody that's been doing this for a long time. And here was a gentleman named Bob Hetzel, and he's doing some work with Parker Fasteners now. And it was really I'm surprised I recognized him. And for one, and I'm surprised I remembered his name. So some things are just really kind of different. You don't get to. I do a lot of road work and a lot of phone work, and a lot of the phone work I do, sometimes you never get to meet these guys. So them outings, or that one in particular, was always fun because it's pretty local, and you do get some attendees from the Chicago group. So that's always fun. So yeah, a lot of the North Coast or the North Coast people, a lot of them don't get to Chicago. So it's kind of like a different crowd, just like every one would be across the country. Good to see them all.
Yeah, it is. And the North Coast is sort of known for being such a great group of people, as we noticed when we first, I guess, Marty brought us over there originally, early on. We just found that it's amazing you can have so many people who can be so friendly, and basically most of them are in competition.
I don't know if other industries are similar to that or not, but that always made me laugh. It's kind of like you're trying to kill each other all day long, and then we go have a beer.
Right.
It's kind of weird.
But good.
Well, from the comments I've heard over the years, and you hear this a lot, but people marvel, they remark about the uniqueness of the fastener industry in that way. So we have a lot to be thankful for in that department. Now, you're a guy who is widely known as somebody who always has his ear to the ground. You get these stories way before anybody else. You're always sitting on something. And this whole big story that just broke with MW and Elgin, that was probably the worst kept secret in the industry. That one wasn't, a huge surprise. But what do you make of all that?
Well, it is really kind of funny because I did get a call like a good month ahead of this, and everybody was waiting for it to drop. So it took a while to become official. I think they looked at them a while ago, but I don't know what to look at it. I hope Elgin has done a fabulous job in my mind on marketing themselves recently, probably over the last year. And they took on reps across the country. And I hope that for their sake that they continue to use reps. When these things happen, sometimes the reps are the first to go. And I think the reps that they have hired are the top level reps. And I hope that they are able to stay on and help grow Elgin. And they're pretty diverse now. I mean, they got almost every product group covered. I just don't know how. It will probably run by itself for a while, but I just hope that they continue to provide value and not get caught up into a numbers game, because that destroys everything in my mind. You get the customer service. The best companies are customer service companies. And they were, in my mind, they have gotten a lot better with that with the ways they've been promoting the company and even word of the mouth on the street. So let's hope that the reps continue to be able to take that to another level, and we'll see. MW has had its ups and downs. There are companies that have been good for them, and companies that, quite frankly, have gone the opposite way. So
right,
we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think we can easily pick out a couple of examples of companies that had a little difficulty. Let's hope Elgin is one that goes the right direction, shall we say. So what do you think is the biggest strength of Elgin right now, aside from its customer service and solid group of reps they're using? I mean, what is it that MW, in your guess, is looking for with this acquisition?
Well, they have diversity of product. They can do a full range of different products within the 5 companies that they have, 6 companies. So they can do everything from the long bolt to the special screw machine run. So it adds to their portfolio. I don't, these guys get bigger and bigger. What's the next number that they sell the whole package to? Guys that have all these big accounts. I don't know if I'm a big believer in it myself, but especially for the industry, I think our industry is so unique to itself, and it's people buy from people type of industry, and I hope it remains that way, and they don't get caught up in the rhetoric of paper and numbers. When they buy these big companies, these guys turn into numbers, not even human beings. It's a little frustrating.
Well, it's a very true observation, Don. I don't know if it's the way the world is going, but yeah, I guess we're at heart traditionalists, you could say.
Yeah, well, there must be some value, stock value, of them larger people just getting bigger and bigger. But I like to think that the old ways were a lot more fun, to be quite honest.
You own any Berkshire Hathaway stock, Don?
Yeah. They're going to own the world anyway. If it's not them, Amazon's going to buy this whole thing anyway.
Yeah, one of those guys.
Yeah, right.
Well, right now you own your own thing. You're captain of your own ship. And so let's rewind a couple of months back. Okay, so we're looking at Shan Fastener. Oh, no. Yeah, it was Fastener with no S.
Yeah, exactly right.
Right, you're back into this S conundrum, though, with what you're doing now, right?
Yeah, exactly right. I was going to mention that to you because we talked about it last time. And the funny part about it is it said Shan Fastener, and then when we had talked about it on the last show, and I'm sure there's not an S on there, and I was positive there wasn't. And when I looked at my articles in corporation, there was an S on there. Which oh my God, I can't believe it.
Oh, we're caught in this nightmare. Now, but it gets even better because what are you doing now? What are you calling it?
It's Fastener Solutions Group. So no plural on Fastener, but a plural on Solutions.
Yeah, we got a double whammy because now it's Solutions, and the old solution was Solution with no S. Oh,
yeah, exactly right.
What are you doing to yourself, man?
Yep.
All right, tell us about it.
All right, well, it's the same kind of concept that the area I was in last time. So we only have a little bit of a twist to it because we do all our secondary process work as far as machine shop work in-house. So 3 or 4 turret lays, a couple lathes, cut-off machines, drillers. So all them things will not be farmed out because it's done under one roof. So it cuts more costs out of the product. And what we chase is the relationship that some of these larger distributors have, and we're looking for a partnership kind of aspect. It's the same kind of thing we did last time, I think. But the difference being right now is a lot of people, our competition now, can do one thing well and maybe not the next, and they don't have access to the material we have access to. So we can be a high-driven customer service company because we have access to that material. So that is the big thing for us. And being located in Cleveland, in this area, is loaded, as we already know, with platers. We have plating companies, electroplaters, mechanical galves, organic coatings, the Magnies of the world. ND Industries is 20 minutes from us. So our ability to be able to make these secondary process work without freight charges that would have to be added into every distributor. Even if you did this type of work in another place, it's still tough. Saving freight alone in this market is a real plus for us. And then having the ability to do all the secondary process work as far as machining is concerned puts us apart from any of the guys that are our competition. So, I mean, I would have, if you'd have asked me 10 years ago if I was going to be, I used to start communication meetings in my former life with a simple explanation of what would you do if you had to compete with yourself? And I never thought it would come to this, but I knew where all the loopholes were. You know, I created the recipe. I know how you can get beaten if you continue to close them loopholes. You're gonna be in a good shape for it. So if I look at somebody, I put myself in a customer's shoes and I wonder what I can do or what I would like to do. So you always want to have, as a customer, have a go-to guy. And then you could use a phrase of, you're only as good as your vendor base. And that is so true for every one of these distributors. Well, using us now as a solid vendor for you is a plus all the way around. I mean, they can eliminate, they can consolidate vendors. They can use us solely for secondary process and machining. It's just incredible how the list of value added is better utilizing Fastener Solutions Group than it would be any other people that are in our pool, put it that way.
I like how you said all the loopholes. You're known as the amazing Shan for a reason, Don.
Yeah, so here's what's happened. This is how it happens. They give you we quote 4 weeks. They give you an order 2 weeks later, and they need the parts in 2 weeks. So the question always is, come on, pull your magic wand out, get something done. So it seems like all the time, as soon as we get an order, it's late.
Give us another example of a loophole that you get it through or get around.
Well, there's always break-in charges, and there's always little things you could do that way. But we sell the vendor as much as we do the customer. It's important for us to be at these events. It's important for us to make sure that the vendor base understands the concept and what we're trying to do. So we're not trying to steal their business. We're just trying to enhance their business. It makes it all work as if we work as a team. If our customer gives us the communication and the process that we require that will help everybody all the way around, we're only going to complete the circle in a communications process. So we'll be so much more better. It's easier for me if I can call a George Hunt of the world and say, George, I need a favor. And he knows who I am, and he knows where we've been, and he understands what we're trying to do.
Oh, you've met?
Yeah, once or twice.
Oh, okay.
So it's comical how if they know you, and it's a people versus people, or people will help people concept, they're going to help you out.
Right.
9 times out of 10, they're going to help you out.
So it's almost as though you're working magic with transparency. It's kind of like an oxymoron, but it's true.
Part of the sales call is the ability to be transparent in everything that we do, so that we will bring value to a distributor, and he will always know what we're doing or where we're going. So transparency is always a big thing for us. The other thing we have that's different and it's always been a good portion of what we do is the ability to be flexible. Flexibility is huge in what we've done or what we can do to grow. Most of the people that are our competitors are rigid, and for obvious reasons, they've gotten big enough where they'll throw minimums on people just to make it stream better because of what's in their needs. But for what we do, the ability to be flexible and moving product and adjusting deliveries is a lot easier when the machine you're running that part on is in your backyard. So you don't have to worry about calling a guy and saying, hey, I need to expedite or move this because you can move it yourself. That's one thing. And the ability to be flexible on minimums and creativity on what we can do with minimums, and we can almost streamline a whole pilot program for each individual distributor. Distributors all run differently, but they're all after the same thing. They're all after quality. They're all after good customer service. And for what we do, it's the 20% of the junk that they don't want to do. So
right.
80% of it's easy, but the rest of it is having us as a weapon for them as a vendor is almost a must nowadays.
Well, you know the game. And I remember actually the first time we met, this was going back. What do you think, Bry? 07, 08?
Yeah, it was in Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely in a bar.
Yeah.
But the second time we met, I think Marty brought us over to the facility over there in Brook Park. You guys were pretty small at that point.
Yeah, in a garage.
Yeah, and you were having one of your brainstorming sessions, and I remarked even at that time how forward-thinking, creative thinking you were. You were really kicking all the ideas around. Anything was on the table, and well, it's turned out that it was a winning formula, and now you're taking it to the next level.
Yeah, only knowing the recipes and knowing the mistakes. Talk about learning by your mistakes. Wow. Yeah, I definitely have done many of them. From product lines to we better get out of this business quickly.
Yeah. Hey, when we both retire, quote unquote, can we do a segment on that on that topic?
Yeah, really.
Not before though, right?
Yeah. Things we'll never do again.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Episode 500.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to hear from you again, Don. And of course, I can't let you get out of here without telling folks how they get a hold of you, because I think after this little drop, they're going to want to.
I would hope. It's Fastener Solutions Group. You can reach me at my email, which is dshan@fastenersolutionsgroup.com. So no plural on the fastener, plural on the solutionsgroup.com.
That's solutions with an S, everybody.
Yes, that's right.
That bloody ending S. We've been dogged with that for 16 years.
All right, Don. We'll have you back again soon to take your temperature on all this. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, no problem.
Hey, mate. Keep well, okay?
It's the amazing Shan. It's Fully Threaded
Radio.
Hey, Sport, you don't look so good.
Man, all this walking at the Fastener Show is wearing me out. I don't know if I can keep going.
I think I have just a thing to help you out, son. Have you ever heard of Old Rusty Bolt beer?
No, what is it?
Why, it's only the tastiest, most refreshing, ice-coldest beer around. The amber goodness of Old Rusty Bolt beer is enough to jumpstart any weary fastener salesman.
I'll try one. Wow, I feel better already. Hey, mister, what's that name again?
Old Rusty Bolt beer, brought to you by the fine folks at Buckeye Fasteners and the Ohio Nut and Bolt Company.
Old Rusty Bolt, that's the name, that name again, Old Rusty Bolt.
Buckeye Fasteners, more than just weld.
Harry, how's your search for new software going?
We've looked at a lot of systems, some with the same old technology, and others didn't seem like they knew much about what we did or needed. We did look at one company, crazy name though, I think it was InSqueakWell.
You mean INXSQL? That's InSQL. That's what we use. We've become much more efficient, and we've been able to offer our customers more services, which makes us more competitive.
Yeah, Inkswell, that's the one. They seem to be the only company that really understood what fastener distributors do for a living, and I found it easy to use.
Harry, it's InSQL, INXSQL. You don't pronounce the X. We buy a lot from several master distributors, and their direct connect simplifies the whole process. When we need pricing and availability quickly, we just hit the F12 key. They know our business. And the best part is, no extra charges. With our old system, apparently nothing we called about was covered by support.
You know, Inkwell seems to be the right company for us.
They're called InSQL, INXSQL. Go to their website, www.inxsql.com, or call them at 877-446-9775.
Solution Man, Ken.
Solution Man, you're my fastener hero.
Just doing my job, ma'am.
SOLUTION, SOLUTIO. Solution Industry. We are Solution.
Hi, this is Deb with 3Q Inc., your source for a wide variety of U.S.-made parts from the heart of the fastener industry. You're listening to Brian and Eric on Fully Threaded Radio.
And it's the news segment. It's here already, folks.
Good.
I know some of you can't wait, and Charlie Kerr fans will be happy because we're going to drop his cameo in here. Big news dropped after we recorded McNulty. Otherwise, he would have mentioned the big UAW situation that's going on. Of course, anytime the automakers get affected, it's pretty important for the fastener industry. So Charlie called me and said, hey, I got some stuff for you. He said, turn on the recorder. I did. You'll hear that in a minute.
And how long did it take you before you had to turn off the recorder?
Yes, you know Charlie well. We kept it pretty tight this time, but he had a lot more to say. Anyway, we'll get to that in a moment. And there's another piece of news that you should know about, everyone. The Pacific West Fastener Association, the grooviest of all of the fastener associations. They recently announced their new board of directors. Actually, it's only kind of new because Hans Fuller was reelected president. I believe this is his second term. He did a good job first time. They brought him back. And George Martinez of Brighton Best, he was on the podcast recently, Bry. Remember that?
Yeah, cool.
He's VP this time around.
Okay, yep.
And being the groovy group that they are, remember they combined secretary and treasury. Ryan McCaffrey of Pacific Coast Bolt is doing double duty over there. They've got a really good-looking lineup there for their directors. Noticed TJ from Goebel is over there. He's looking real gangster with this new look he's got going. Everybody's all smiling and happy. It kind of looks like a mugshot in this one, Bry, on the pack-west.org.
Really? Okay.
You know, he's a tough guy, but he's very friendly when you meet him. But yeah, in this one, I don't know.
You sort of imagine he should be wandering around with a cowboy hat and some guns, you think?
I don't know. This photo looks more like maybe a Tommy gun.
Oh, okay.
Should have some fingerprints next to it, maybe. Pack West. So this group also just had their fall conference out in Coeur d'Alene. Saw some really great photos out on LinkedIn. There was one of Mallory Nichols teeing off on this unbelievably. It was just such an immaculate golf course they had at this place. This is the reason I don't play golf, Bri, because she was shooting across a fairway of just all water onto this little tiny island. I mean, that pond had to be just filled with golf balls. I don't know.
Well, it would be if I was teeing off, I have to say.
Well, she looked pretty fearless in that shot. Anyway, the fearless Charlie Kerr is up, and let's just point out that the Fastener News Report is brought to us today by Volt Industrial Plastics, and the title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio are Brighton Best International, Goebel Fasteners, and Star Stainless. Here's Charlie Kerr on that UAW story.
Good.
You there?
Yeah. Why, you got something going on?
Yeah, I just wanted to throw something out that you may or may not find useful. Tomorrow is September 14th. And I guess at the end of the day, the United Auto Workers work agreement with Ford, Chrysler, which is Stellantis, and General Motors expires. And I'm 67 years old. And over the years, there have been strikes at one of the big three, but not all three at one time. And if that happens, and it lasts for, say, several weeks, if not a couple months, I think this could have a very devastating impact on fastener manufacturers and other, suppliers of metal components that are used in building cars.
Oh, yeah, no question. A lot of people are watching this, Charlie, for sure.
Now, one thing that I'll point out, scrap surcharges for steel have been gradually trending down. And that's not 100% a function of demand for steel, but it's, trust me, if there's no demand for steel, there's no demand for scrap. And, so it has, there is a connection there. But for instance, as recently as April, now keep in mind, mills have different calculations for their scrap surcharges. But round numbers, scrap surcharge that we pay was about $17.50 a hundredweight. Now, it jumped up a little bit in May. Now it's below $11.50 a hundredweight for steel that'll be shipped in October. Now, I guess the good news is everybody would prefer to pay less for steel. The bad news is if that $11.50 in round numbers, let's say that drops to like $4.50, and you got a 100,000 square foot warehouse that's full of inventory that was put there when scrap was close to $18 a hundredweight, you got a headache.
Yeah. Cascading disasters. So if you had to put money down right now, Charlie, where do you think this auto worker situation is going to wind up, say, 2 months from now?
Well, it's hard to say for sure, and I'll tell you why, because something I find very weird. I read this in the Wall Street Journal today, and today is the 13th of September, that the price of stock for some of these car companies is going up because investors are of the mind that if there is a strike, it's going to be a short one. Having said that, the UAW is asking for like a 40% pay raise over the duration of the contract. That works out to about 10% a year. And the car companies are offering somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe 4% a year. That's a pretty big gap. And, I don't know if the guy that's president of the UAW has just been elected, so he's kind of new to the job. I don't know if he's just testing the waters to see if, it's kind of like, ask for a big number and they might counter with not what you're asking for, but a lot less, but maybe more than they would have otherwise. So I'm not sure, what his negotiating strategy might be. I will tell you, Kerr Lakeside does not supply any of the car companies as a tier 1 supplier. But I guarantee you that on a maintenance and repair basis, a lot of screws that leave our dock every day are used in assemblies that have some connection to what's going on with a car manufacturing facility somewhere.
Well, that's true throughout the fastener industry. The ripple effects of whatever might happen would be huge. And we know that the UAW has an enormous strike fund, and they seem poised to be really digging in. So you're probably right on the negotiating strategy there, Charlie, and I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Well, I'm keeping my fingers crossed that whatever the final outcome is, that it's, favorable for our industry. But on a personal note, I'm driving a Ford Expedition. It's got 190,000 miles on it. And, at the risk of sounding like a cheapskate, I always try to buy these things when they're 2 years old and have somewhere between 25 and 30,000 miles on them. It seems to be like the one I'm driving right now was an Enterprise rental car company car before I got it. It was real clean. It was parked right next to a brand new model. I couldn't tell the difference until I looked at the sticker in the window. If the car companies go on strike for an extended period of time, there's going to be no inventory of new cars, which means there's going to be no inventory of used cars, which means next year at this time when you and I get on the phone, I'm going to be driving a car with 240,000 miles on it. And I'm not happy about it.
So there you have it. And I think some people would be shocked that Charlie's driving around in a car that has got well over 100,000 on it already.
Yeah, I'm sure Charlie knows how to get value out of anything.
Oh, yeah.
Including his old coal hitting machines, too.
They are old war horses, but
yeah,
man, do they crank it out over there at Kerr Lakeside. Euclid, Ohio, an institution here in the Midwest and in the fastener industry. And we'll hand it off now to another institution. He's focused. Actually, this time he's refocusing on fasteners. Bry?
Yeah. And now for news about screws that you can use, here's Mike McNulty.
Thanks, Brian and Eric. This is Mike McNulty from Fastener Technology International Magazine, bringing you the Fastener News Report, which is sponsored by Volt Industrial Plastics, makers of the world's finest plastic fasteners. American football is full speed ahead on high school, college, and professional fields all over the great United States of America. The federal government can no longer threaten social media companies with destruction if they don't censor on behalf of the government, and the Chinese century is probably going to end around 7 decades short of 100 years, but I am still focused on fasteners and ready to deliver today's Fastener News Report. In this episode, Endries International President and CEO Michael Knight joins us to reveal the latest results of the Fastener Distributor Index, also known as the FDI. Also in today's broadcast, we have our top story on IFE's Fastener Hall of Fame and Young Fastener Professional Award inductees, as well as newsmaker headlines from MW Components, Worth Group, ITW, Spiral, Bright & Best International, Fastener Specialties Manufacturing, Rotor Clip, and more. On the back page report, we're going to talk about the month of September. We'll get to all of that and the latest FDI results right after this.
When price is a big concern and you don't have high tensile strength requirements to worry about, ever think to yourself, why not plastic? Hey everyone, it's Heidi from Bolt Industrial Plastics. Next time you need to find a solution that requires keeping costs as low as possible, give Volt a call and put our team of skilled customer service representatives to work for you. Plastic fasteners can make sense on a wide range of applications that you might not have considered before and provide your customers with big savings. So the next time you have trouble with price and delivery, just think, why not plastic? From everyone here at Bolt Industrial Plastics, thanks for another great year. And you know the website, it's boltplastics.com.
This is Jake Davis, founder of the industry-renowned U-Bolt Blend Coffee and president of BTM Manufacturing. As a domestic manufacturer of threaded fasteners and bent wire products, our history as a family-owned business runs deep. My father, Joe Davis Jr., started in the fastener distribution industry over 50 years ago and has always instilled exceptional customer service into myself and our employees. Over the years, we've expanded our production facility to accommodate more projects, added machinery and tooling to increase our productivity, and increased our knowledge of products consistent with industry changes. However, one constant has always been our customer service-focused mentality. In an imperfect world, we always strive to put our customers first. It's the way I was taught, and it's the way I've continued to operate our business. BTM Manufacturing, a commitment to service.
Cut the no quotes out of the equation. Eurolink is your go-to resource for uncommon and hard-to-find metric fasteners that others can't even quote. Contact the sales team at EurolinkFSS.com and get your hard-to-find metric fasteners delivered.
Mike McNulty.
The seasonally adjusted Fastener Distributor Index for August 2023 surged to a neutral reading of 50.0, the second highest FDI recorded in 2023, and a nice improvement over the 40.7 result in July. The forward-looking indicator, also known as the FLI, also rebounded to 45.9 versus 38.8 the previous month, the 13th straight month of sub-50 FLIs, but the highest result of the year. Fastener Distributor Index data is collected and analyzed by the FCH Sourcing Network and Baird. The FDI seeks to identify demand, pricing, and outlook trends within the American fastener distribution industry. To get some insight on these results, we talked to Endries International President and CEO Michael Knight. Hi, Michael. Thanks for joining us on the Fastener News Report.
Hey, Mike. Happy to be here, especially given the improvement in FDI. I felt bad listening to the last couple recordings. The folks that you were interviewing for this spot had to weigh in on some kind of crappy numbers.
Yeah, they had to polish up some bad-looking fruit, I guess. And you're stepping in with, the second best FDI of the year and the best forward-looking indicator. What do you think about these results?
So very encouraging. I should preface all my comments with noting that I'm an optimist by nature. So I'm always looking for some blue sky, and I feel tailwinds more strongly than headwinds generally. But so I think these results actually do reflect an improving sentiment for the second half of the year. Everybody that I talk to, whether it's in the electronic components industry, the fastener industry, and customers, the prevailing trend is that things are improving, for lots of reasons that you talk about on this segment and some of your other things, Mike, but not the least of which is customer inventories are coming down, and we're getting through this inventory hangover that we started the year with. So if I'm surprised by anything, is that they're actually not stronger, especially the FLI. But that said, I also acknowledge that kind of a common human condition is, I think we're hardwired to look for negativity over positivity. We're keeping an eye out for saber-toothed tigers and other things that are going to jump out and eat us. And so we tend to be more pessimistic about the future than optimistic, even when things are going well.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, especially in the media. They're always one of those old, if it bleeds, it leads, or leads, something like that. But so I mean, that's a good perspective that you have, is to look on the bright side, because there's always a bright side to everything. And these numbers are definitely brighter than the last few you mentioned. We're down quite a bit. In fact, the sales number more than doubled to 48.8 this month versus 22.3 last month. And so that was nice to see.
Yeah, I noticed that. What happened in July? 22.3. It's like the world's coming to an end.
Yeah. Maybe it was the 4th of July being in the middle of the week or something like that.
Well, I'm curious about, kind of summer slump, because what I hear a lot is people referring to, well, it's a summer. And by the way, we certainly saw it in our numbers as we went into the summer. Things got soft and squishy progressively. August was definitely off pace. And so when I asked my own team, okay, guys, what's really going on here? I get a lot of, well, it's the summer. More people are on vacation than normal and all of that. And frankly, I'm a little dubious about that. I'm not quite ready to just accept that, because over time, what I've noticed is that with technology and globalization, the seasonality in a lot of industries has kind of just disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not used to really seeing a slowdown around holidays or the summer traditionally, but I want to be open-minded here. Maybe this summer was different. Maybe we really did have a summer slump. I don't know.
I mean, we all talk, or you hear about the working vacations. You get up early and check all your emails and work, and then relax, and then work a little later on in the day. So it's a good point. But yeah, I don't know what happened in July, but there was a drop for sure, and then that's corrected itself. Some of the other numbers we saw, that employment and deliveries and month-to-month pricing all increased, while inventories and year-to-year pricing dipped. So inventory is going down. That's a good thing, because you noted that at the beginning of your comments. You think we're getting rid of that problem?
Yeah, I think the big story for this year, when we look back on it, is it's all about working capital. We are all, whether it's an end customer or a manufacturer, a distributor, very extra working capital sensitive this year, because there's a lot of things going on. The over inventory is a biggie. We're all trying to work down inventories to free up cash to do other things, and that's certainly the case here. But then the other two levers on working capital are accounts payable and accounts receivable. So in order to improve working capital, we're all slow paying down the chain and pressuring our customers to fast pay. So, they kind of cancel each other out. But I think that certainly for the first half of the year, a lot of the business behavior and what people have been doing, how they've been running their businesses, there's an extra measure of cash sensitivity that as we get past this, I'm expecting a kind of a more normal trend in terms of investment and planning and that kind of thing.
So people keeping their cash a little closer to the vest.
Yeah, for lots of reasons, not the least of which is, interest rates have climbed. So,
crazy.
The cost of debt hurts. And by the way, I think that is a going to be, for another 12 to 18 months, a pretty strong headwind that is going to affect how our customers invest, how each of us invest in additional capacity, how we invest in people. So I don't want to minimize or make light of the headwinds because they are significant. We just saw in the August PPI further strengthening there, which to me suggests we're a long way from having inflation tamed, which means I think we're a long way from having the Fed move from a hawkish stance to a dovish stance. So we're not out of the woods yet, but things also aren't as bad as the headlines would have us believe, in my opinion.
Yeah, and just in real world, just going around and traveling and going to stores and restaurants, and seems like things are pretty good.
Yep. Business is certainly strong, and prices are certainly strong as well. That's the thing I'm struggling with is, we talked about a lot of people being on vacation, which is awesome. I think vacations are important, but frankly, I'm not quite sure how everybody can afford to be on vacation given the cost of flights, restaurants, and hotels.
Yeah, that's that's always a question. Like, where does everybody get all the money? But it's a question that's always kind of been in the back of my mind. Just walking around the neighborhood, or like going to the airports. Where's everybody going? But everything keeps moving along pretty good. And one set of numbers I want to talk about it that kind of surprised me a little bit was the 6-month outlook was unchanged. It was the same as it was last month, with only 23% of the respondents expecting things to be better, 40 expecting it to be same, and 37 expecting conditions to be worse 6 months down the road. So I don't know, with the FLI going up and the FDI going up, I thought that might have improved a little bit as well. So
I too found that to be a little conservative in light of I think we've universally moved past the viewpoint that recession is overdue and imminent. Even the naysayers have flipped, and I think everyone is saying that we will be recession-free this year. So I would have expected that to be reflected in outlooks. So that is a bit puzzling.
Yeah.
Frankly, though, as I look ahead beyond this year, which I do think the second half of this year is going to be better than the first half. I bet money on that. But I am expecting things to get a little choppy again first half of next year. Recessions, we talk about them as they're, the boogeyman, but I think they're pretty natural things. They serve a purpose. They get things to kind of reset. Frankly, the only way that we are going to avoid all the pain of long-term inflation is actually to trigger a recession, in my opinion. And I would rather have a recession than long-term inflation. Long-term inflation feels like a really serious illness, where a recession feels like a cold to me. So in a weird way, having a little bit of a recession, a very soft recession in the first half of the year, I think clears the decks for an amazing second half of calendar 24. And my personal opinion is when we get into 25, we've got lots of room and runway ahead of us, potentially for the rest of the decade. So what I'm telling my team through the budgeting process and through team meetings is, stay calm, preserve strength, because we've got much better days ahead of us. But then we got to keep our eye on the prize, because the next 12 months probably will continue to be a bit choppy.
Well, it's a good way to look at it. You have the a recession being like, a cold that you get over and you come back stronger out of it, rather than long-term illness of just inflation that won't go away. And, I think the natural market forces, we know in our guts that's the best way to go, rather than trying to control it all with outside influences. They usually have unintended consequences and bad results.
Yeah, and when something as big as the U.S. economy, and if you go bigger, the global economy, it's not like there are fine dials on this where you can make micro adjustments. These are very big levers that you pull, and the effect is, one, it's not subtle, but more importantly, it's not immediate. It takes time to see what happens, and I'm very curious about, Mike, is next year is an election year, and historically, if in an election year we're in recession, the incumbent doesn't get reelected. And I gotta believe the incumbents know that and are probably
going to do whatever they can.
Yeah, and I don't know how that works. The Fed's an independent organization, is supposed to be immune from pressure from the federal government. But if you buy into that fantasy, I'd like to talk to you about selling you the Brooklyn Bridge. But next year is going to be pretty interesting because of the election cycle.
Right. See what they try to throw at it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, we will see what happens. That's maybe a good segue. Well, let's go into some of the respondent commentary. The first comment was touching on the summer vacation issue that you brought up. And this quote from one of the respondents said, felt that customers had catching up to do after summer vacation. Sales activity was up in August after a very sluggish July, end quote. So that's kind of what you were alluding to before. Another quote was one a little puzzling, but it said it was related to, despite improvements in the FDI this month, multiple participants expressed unease on the future, which kind of explains maybe the 6-month outlook not being bad. This one quote here, it says, too much bad juju in the world. I don't know what juju is, but I'm expecting a slowing of sales as people become nervous and continue to ignore the economists. You know what juju is? I think
it doesn't sound good.
Yeah, or maybe they mean too many bad vibes or bad omens or something like that.
So one of the other things that I think has to be factored in, and a number of your other guests leading up to this have talked about this, is 21 and then 22 was truly remarkable. I mean, a lot of us saw more growth in 1 or 2 years than we would expect to see in 5 or 10 years. And what I think is even more remarkable is generally we're hanging on to it. It reminds me of some advice I got from a friend of mine, a guy named Dennis Reed, who works at Edgewater Research. He said, you got to comp the comps. So, the obvious comp for this year is last year, right? And those comps don't look that great at the moment for many of us. But is that, you then have to stop and comp last year's comps. And I think what you see if you take a little bit of a long view is that we're in kind of nosebleed territory and staying there. So it's all a matter of perspective, but perspective is important because I think it kind of sets you up for how you're going to play the game, how you're going to move through the world.
Yeah, well, that's good advice, definitely. It's all relative to where you're comparing it to. The next comment I wanted to share is one respondent said, it's hard to predict the upcoming months with any confidence. I would expect to see businesses have small peaks and valleys as the market still has not normalized yet. And then another comment, respondent was encouraged by recent stabilization, business is steady, and the forecast is the same. So that's what you were talking about earlier, a little bit of choppy waters, but things kind of stabilizing overall, and just got to keep using your wind reference, using the tailwinds to keep going.
Yeah, for sure.
The next comment is related to pricing, saying this respondent says it's hard to pass on pricing. Our vendors' prices are increasing, but we are not expected to raise our prices. We've lost orders for less than 25 cents per part. Another comment, inflation is impacting many of the traditional costs of distribution in the USA, including labor and freight. Product sourcing prices in Taiwan are up 6%, China slightly down, and containerized freight is down. Customers are flat and building to order versus inventory. Yeah,
this is a challenge for all of us, right? And it challenges even for our end customers because and this too is not new news. You've covered this before now, Mike, but we're still dealing with peak pricing that we've inventoried, parts that were ordered a year ago, 2 years ago. We all have inventory that at a price point that we could replace the inventory at a lower price point today. So we've got to work with our end customers all down the chain to get that resolved. But one thing I would point out, and I talked to our sales team about this, is that yes, freight has come down. Yes, in some cases, raw materials have settled down. But the fact of the matter is there are a lot of cost inputs that go into pricing of our product that haven't settled down, and we're talking about labor, we're talking about insurance, business insurance premiums. I just went through an insurance review here. Not fun. Business insurance benefits costs are going up. I don't think people are going to sign up for a pay cut anytime soon. So that the higher wage rates that have developed over the last couple of years, they are a factor. Regulatory costs are a factor. So there's some very significant cost inputs that not only remain high, but continue to go higher. And I think it's important that we have those details so we can talk intelligently about that with our customers who are just reading the headlines and saying, hey, come on, what's going on here? Freight's settled down, lead times have started to settle down. Where are my lower prices?
Yeah, that's a good point. It is a challenge.
Yeah, those aren't easy conversations. But the more facts you have, the more rational you can be. A believer that I think it helps the conversation.
Okay. Well, anything else you want to add on the FDI before we give you a chance to talk? Tell the listeners what's going on with Endries International.
Nope. I like the index. We actually map our own results to the index. I think there's a lot of reasons for optimism, Mike.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that caught my attention while we were talking is we were saying, all year, people have been talking about a recession and hasn't happened. And I'm like, well, it's September, so it's almost over.
Technically, it's not possible for this year. You have to have 2 back-to-back quarters that are down.
Exactly, yeah. So push it into 2024. Okay, good. So, thanks for your insights on the FDI and the FLI. What's going on with Endries International?
Actually, a lot. We are very focused on the future. So we just started our new calendar, or rather our new fiscal year. Started August 1. We've got a funky fiscal, but got the budget by the board of directors, and we are actually increasing our CapEx and our investments on innovation, systemic stuff, doing some kind of cool things with AI, but also investments in people. We're growing our team, and we've got some technology investments that I'm really excited about in terms of VMI, which is a very important part of our value proposition to our end customers. That before the end of this calendar year, I think we'll be out in beta with a couple of lead customers on that. I can't wait to talk more about. If the proof of concept we're running right now goes as planned, this will be a big deal. So there's a lot of ways that we can all grow our business, and frankly, I wouldn't mind a little bit of a breather because it'll give us some time to do some of the things that you can't do when things are just going flat out. And so there is a lot going on here. So stay tuned.
Yeah, and I know you guys, I'm looking on your website, which is endries.com. You cover a lot of different markets, everything in all seasons and in and out of season and different things. So it looks pretty well diversification there. And as well as acquisitions. And I know you've had a lot of acquisitions, and maybe you can't talk about any that you have coming up or taking a breather, but I'm sure people will look forward to that. It's
an important part of what we do. And I talked about this in the article that you mentioned earlier with the traveling salesman. I am super lucky. Steve Endries, who's a son of founder Bob Endries, and Steve's grown up in the business, leads our M&A activity. I've taken a lot of kind of day-to-day stuff off of Steve, giving him more time to do this, and he's absolutely brilliant at it. He's a perfect person, right? He's, put it bluntly, been bought and sold a few times. We've got a spectacular story for anybody thinking about selling their business. Story is the wrong word. It's actually not a story. It's a reality. We've got plenty of reference points, people in our business that came through acquisition.
Yeah, you're good at doing it.
Yep, we are. So keep an eye out on that. We've got great backers. So despite the cost of debt at the moment, we're very much in the game. That is an important part of our growth story, has been and will continue to be. But we're also really, really focused on organic growth. And many of the investments I was talking about earlier are all designed to enhance our organic growth.
Yeah, bet you're looking forward to getting those up and running and online and sharing them with your customers. Yeah, you mentioned the article that was appeared in the August-September issue of Fastener Technology International magazine. It was page 88 and 89. The traveling salesman interviewed you. There's 3 pages of good interview and some pictures, including some pictures of motorcycle and a truck that I think you have a interest in rebuilding British cars, trucks, tractors, and motorcycles. Anything you want to tell us about there?
They all use a lot of fasteners.
So that's why you gravitated to the fastener industry.
Yeah. Well, what I always tell my team is keep an eye on me as I'm going through warehouses, that I don't start stuffing my pockets full of parts.
Put in your workshop. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it was a good article. Yeah. Listeners should check it out if they haven't already seen it. And I heard, the Fully Threaded Radio had a special report from the MWFA week last month in the Chicagoland area. And there was some interviews in there, and I heard there was a couple Endries International people there that were took the Fastener Training Institute training class, and they had some commentary on there. So sounds like you're investing in your people too.
Absolutely. We love that and intend to send more folks through it. In fact, myself and my new CFO, Dan Crocchiata, are going to be at the International Fastener Expo in Las Vegas. And on the Monday, 2 of us are going to attend the all-day training that's going on there.
Good.
Yeah, be armed and dangerous come Tuesday.
Then you'll be out on the show floor and walking the aisles and checking out they have a pretty good program put together, I think.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Anything else you want to close and tell the listeners about?
No, I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you, and especially appreciate being able to have this conversation when things are, at the moment, swinging up. So if it continues to go up and to the right, I'm going to take full credit. If it doesn't, I think I'm going to try and blame it on Eric.
Blame it on Eric. That's always a good move. And then you can wait till you see it's going to come back up again, and then you'll ask. We'll invite you back on for the next upswing.
Perfect.
Good. Well, thanks again for coming on and for sharing your insights on the industry and the FDI and the FLI and all the good things that are going on at Endries International.
Thanks for having me.
That was Endries International President and CEO Michael Knight. The FDI number for August 2023 was 50.0 versus 40.7 in July. Visit FDIsurvey.com to participate in the process and get a detailed PDF copy of Baird's monthly analysis. Now for today's top story on IFE's Fastener Hall of Fame and Young Fastener Professional Award inductees. The organizers of the International Fastener Expo 2023 invite the entire fastener industry to join them in congratulating the 2023 Fastener Hall of Fame and Young Fastener Professional Award inductees. The 2023 Hall of Fame inductees include Bob Baer, President and CEO of Abbott Interfast, George Hunt III, Regional Sales Manager at Brighton Best International, and Eric Dudas and Brian Musker, the founders and principals of the FCH Sourcing Network and Fully Threaded Radio. These 4 men have a combined 90-plus years of professional work and volunteer service in the fastener industry, not to mention countless hours behind-the-scenes work as fastener industry champions and advocates. The Young Fastener Professional Award inductees are Michael Robinson, Key Accounts Manager for Linfast Solution Group, and Mallory Cravens-Nichols, Vice President, Business Development for Advanced Components. Together, these young professionals can boast many productive years of strong fastener industry experience and performance, as well as impressive resumes of volunteer leadership work at industry associations. Congratulations to all the winners for these well-deserved awards and on their completed and upcoming contributions to the fastener industry. You can find more information on the 2023 inductees on page 1 of the September 18th issue of the Fastener News Report, which is available online at fastenertech.com, and you can hear the inductees' acceptance speeches in person at the Las Vegas Fastener Show in October. You can also learn more about the IFE Fastener Show in Fastener Technology International magazine's October-November issue, which has more than 20 pages of IFE 2023 coverage, including dozens of exhibitor spotlights. Visit fastenertech.com to read it online. Next up, today's Fastener Newsmaker headlines. In corporate news, MW Components acquired the Elgin Fastener Group. Distribution Solutions Groups announced a 2-for-1 stock split. Worth Group made changes to its supervisory board. Whitecap acquired Reno Hardware and Supply. ITW announced a CEO succession plan. Spiral expanded its fastener equipment line. Genesis Industries acquired Sterner Screw Machine. And Hager Oldenzaal, a pen engineering company, inaugurated its new machine demonstration facility. In personnel news, Brighton Best International named Rex Crawford Southeast Regional Manager and Al Tuke as Proford Sales Manager. Juergens appointed Miguel Carran as its Product and Business Development Manager for Mexico. Fastnap Corporation named Jeff Kendall President, Joe Killenbeck Chief Operating Officer, and Dave Freshour Director of Operations. And Arcana Corporation announced that Kris Ayers has become its Chief Executive Officer. In milestone and award news, Fastener Specialties Manufacturing is celebrating its 50th anniversary. Eurolink was recognized as a top 10 industrial fastener service provider, and Rotorclip won a GM Supplier Excellence Award. You can get details on all of these stories and more in Fastener Technology International Magazine and the Fastener News Report monthly newsletter, both available online at fastenertech.com. Now let's turn to the back page to talk about the month of September. I am a longtime fan of the month of September and the upcoming season of fall for all of the obvious and perhaps superficial reasons. Cooler temperatures and brighter skies, backyard garden harvests, acorns and leaves underfoot, football games, long sleeves and jackets, Oktoberfest beer, school buses, and reluctantly pumpkin-flavored everything. I also have several family members with September birthdays, so there are always celebrations to attend to. But this year, thanks to a short and wonderful column on the editorial page of the September 10th issue of the Wall Street Journal, it seems to me that something deeper and more profound is at work on us as we enter autumn each year. The author, Emma Osman, a 20-something assistant social media editor for the Journal, writes, quote, "There's a shift in the air when September arrives. The leaves begin to turn, you grab a sweater for the morning commute, children head to school with new backpacks and uniforms. It's a time for fresh starts. There are new teachers, new classes, new friends, excitement, and anticipation. This is the second autumn in which I am not part of the back-to-school club. As I watched my younger sister pack her bags for college, I felt a bit wistful. Luckily, my Jewish grandmother is more than willing to teach a lesson. She reminded me that in the Jewish tradition, Rosh Hashanah, which begins on September 15th, marks the new year, offering every one of us a new beginning. We eat apples and honey in hope of a sweet year, and we usher in a period of reflection, taking stock of our mistakes, sins, and regrets. 10 days later, on Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, our fast offers us a period of introspection and repentance. We ask God for forgiveness and for a blank slate in the coming year." End quote. Wow, very nice, Emma. Now, I am not Jewish, but I am in my 7th decade of practicing Christianity, sometimes faithfully, other times not, hopefully with the right amount of zeal and perseverance to overcome bouts of lukewarmness and laziness. And I'm very familiar with and fond of the Hebrew scriptures and celebrations, as well as the many Jewish roots of Christianity. So it now seems to me that these thousands of years old traditions may have something to do with how many of us enjoy September and the season it ushers in. Ms. Osman concludes her article by writing, quote, "The fall is a chance to refocus. It gives us a moment to start fresh if we allow it to," end quote. So as I record this back page report on September 15th, the actual Jewish New Year, and we all prepare for the last quarter of 2023 and the barrage of winter days lying ahead of us on the horizon, I close by saying Happy New Year and all the best to the Fully Threaded Radio community on refocusing on fasteners and other important things this month and into the fall season ahead. This has been Mike McNulty of Fastener Technology International bringing you the Fastener News Report. Please send your news, pictures, comments, corrections, or complaints to me at mcnulty@fastenertech.com.
Goebel Fasteners is excited to announce our brand new 18-volt lithium-ion cordless battery tools. They are proven, reliable tools ideal for demanding assembly, maintenance, general metalworking and trucking industry applications. Gerbil Fasteners, the leading rivet source.
Quality products, quality service, quality customers. That's 3Q Inc., a fastener distributor unlike any you've worked with before. With its unique remote managed inventory stocking programs, wide array of secondary service offerings, and wholly owned cold forming capability, 3Q Inc. has been supporting fastener distributors since 2008. 3Q offers a wide range of 100% American-made fasteners, including ITW SEMS lock washers, as well as specialty and imported parts. Give 3Q a call today to discuss your needs and experience 3Q quality for yourself. 3Q Inc. www.3q-inc.com.
Hello, everybody. This is Carmen Vertullo with your Fastener Training Minute, coming to you from Carver Labs and the Fastener Training Institute. Today, our Fastener Training Minute is a third and maybe the last we'll see in our series about cutting taps. Now, these cutting taps that we're going to be talking about are used for tapping holes. You drill a hole and you tap it. These aren't the kind of taps you use for manufacturing nuts, mass production in the industry. These are the things that you either use in your hand with a tool, or maybe you put them into a CNC machine or a drill press with a Tapmatic to tap holes. We're going to talk about the most common types of taps and maybe a little bit about special taps. And to help me with that, I have a guest who is one of our great Fastener Training Mentor Program mentees. His name's Jorge Munoz. He's from Ababa Bolt here in El Cajon, which is the place I got my start in this industry. When we come back, I'm going to introduce Jorge to you, and we're going to talk about cutting taps.
At Worth, status quo isn't an option. Worth is a global supply chain solutions provider of fasteners, MRO, and safety products, along with value-added services like kitting and assembly, 3D printing, and engineering assistance. Find out what Worth can do for you at worthindustry.com.
Hello everyone, Ashley Parker with Parker Fasteners. Do you have a dual source for socket product lines? With everything going on in the world, don't get caught single-sourced. Bring solutions to your customers' needs. Begin investing in domestic products. You will decrease transportation, lead times, increase sustainability, and you'll be carrying quality products you can trust. Start forging your future by enhancing your supply chain. Join the movement and call Parker Fasteners today. Forge USA.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Fastener Training Minute. Today we're talking about cutting taps in this third of a series, and I have a good friend here, a guy I've known for a long time, worked with him. His name's Jorge Munoz. Jorge, tell us about where you work and what you do there.
Hey Carmen, I work at Ababa Bolt, or a wholesale fastener distributor, cutting tools, cutting fluids. I've worked there 17 years, a little bit of everything in the warehouse, in front counter, inside sales. We sell taps there.
And when I worked at Ababa Bolt, I sold taps too. And throughout my working life as all the way back to shop class in 8th grade, when I first learned about cutting taps, I've used them. Interestingly enough, there are a few things to know about taps. So I'm going to start off asking Jorge. And I remember there were 3 pretty basic types of taps that people would ask for, or at least if they knew what they were doing, they would ask for it, and you might counsel them. Tell us about those 3 taps, Jorge, in terms of the type and what the differences are between them.
Sure. So yeah, the very basics, 3 taps, 3 different flutes is I think what they're called. So there's a bottoming tap, which is used for blind holes commonly, a plug tap, which is the most common one, and a taper tap, which I think gives you longer cutting surface, usually for harder alloys.
And so when someone would come into the front counter and they would just come up to you and say, I need a 1/4-20 tap, and they don't know anything about those, what would you ask them to help them tune in on which one of the 3 they might choose?
What you're drilling into, what's it for, basically trying to figure out if it's going to be a bottoming hole or through hole.
So the bottoming tap would be used in a bottomed hole, like a hole that's not all the way through so you can get closer to the bottom.
Yes, sir.
But not so good at starting threads because it doesn't have much of a taper to it.
Not much of a taper at all, about 1 or 1.5 threads.
So I know also from my work in the CNC machine shop that there are some other types of taps that can sometimes be used by hand. And one of those is a spiral point tap, or what's called a gun nose or bull nose tap. And that wouldn't be typical that you would find in the fastener supplier tap selection, would it?
Not usually like in commercial fasteners.
You could have to order
over-the-counter stuff. Yeah, special order stuff. Somebody who kind of knows what they're doing, what they're looking for.
And that's popular for us in the CNC world. Now, one of the issues that you have is when you're going to tap a hole, the chips have to have somewhere to go, right?
Yes, sir.
Or else you have to pull the tap in and out to clear the chips. And I know in our world, in the CNC world, we have a tap that's called a spiral flute tap. And describe that for us.
The name kind of says it. It's a spiral, big spiral. I think it's for ejecting the chips when you're cutting.
That's right. It will make the chips come out of the hole instead of going into the hole. And the cool thing about that is if you have a blind hole, those chips don't get packed in. And that's not a hand tap. I've seen people use them as hand taps. I've used them as hand taps, but they break very easily. Ask me how I know. You look at them, they just look spindly. They look like there's no metal or meat there. And they look kind of like a weapon, like a mace or something. They're just gnarly looking tools. So you have to have great control to use them properly. And that control comes from the CNC machine tool. And I'm going to tell you about one more type of tap that is very interesting to me. And this is called the roll thread tap or the thread forming tap. And you look at that tap and it could or could not have flutes, but it does not cut any material. Therefore, we must have a hole that's larger than the normal tap drill. Remember a couple of episodes ago, we talked about tap drills. And with the roll thread tap, you need a larger hole because we're moving material both outward and inward. And one of the biggest mistakes we see people make is they use the normal tap drill for the cutting tap with the roll thread or thread forming tap. And these don't work in all materials. You got to have a reasonably ductile material. But their claim to fame is they don't break as easily and they last a really long time. So if you have hundreds or thousands of holes to tap in your CNC equipment, or even by hand or the Tapmatic, it's the way to go. Now, that's the very basics of taps. And I would say there are some other types of taps. There are taps for tapping pipe threads, for example. And there are taps for oversized holes. We have this thing called H-limit, right, George?
Yes, sir. Commonly, what you're going to see in commercial stuff is a 2H. Once people who really know what they're doing, they're going to change them. There's 3H up to 7H.
And that refers to the size the thread is going to be within the limit of what that thread is allowed to be according to its class. It doesn't make the tapped hole in or out of limits. It just simply decides where within the thread class that you're making that the tapped hole is going to be. And this comes in handy when you want a little bit larger hole for assemblability or a little bit tighter hole for whatever reason. Maybe you want a higher strength internal thread. And it goes all the way up to H11, which is a very oversized hole. And the typical fastener distributor that sells taps probably would not have that, but they could order it for you because all of the tap manufacturers make all of those H-limit taps. And I'm not going to mention who they are. You all know who they are.
Yeah, commercially, you're just going to see like 2H is what common stuff the home stores are going to have.
If you go into the Home Depot or something, You're going to get a 2H. So I think that's about enough to know about the common hand taps for right now. Also, of course, there's a product called the threading die, which makes the external thread that you would have on a bolt very difficult to use, in my opinion. Most people use them to repair or chase damaged threads, but you can make threads with them with a lot of care and a lot of preparation. If you have an issue with using a threading die, give me a call or email me. You know how to get a hold of me, carmenv@carverem.com. And I will tell you all the things you can do wrong with threading dies because I've done all of them. All right. Well, George, thank you for joining us.
That's my pleasure.
And thank you for participating in the Fastener Expert Mentoring Program, which, by the way, by the time you hear this, probably will be fired up. We're going to start in the 3rd week of September. It was going to be the 2nd week, the 9th, but I pushed that out to, I think, the 16th. I hope I got those dates right. Those of you that are listening who are mentees will all be getting an email around that. Okay, this has been Carmen Vertullo and George Munoz from Ababa Bolt with your Fastener Training Minute. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
This is Mike Robinson with Star Stainless, and you are listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
In the ongoing interest of continuing to bring Fully Threaded listeners the best in predominantly fastener-related media, got wind of a great new podcast. Actually, I saw this a few months ago fly by on LinkedIn, gave it a listen, and Marty Nolan reminded me the other day, hey, you got to have these guys on the podcast, Kris Kolb and Bryce Oliveira. I hope I got you right there.
Well done, Eric.
Yeah, you guys put out a really, really cool new podcast called Bolts and Hose. Welcome to Fully Threaded.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate you having us on, man.
Thanks for having us, brother.
Hey, it's great to meet you guys, and let's talk a little bit about your podcast, a little bit about Patriot Bolt, which is from where it hails and all that stuff. Man, I had some fun scanning these episodes. Looks like you guys have fun putting it together.
And it's kind of awkward. I feel like we're cheating on Bolts and Hose because this is, I think, the first podcast we've been on other than Bolts and Hose.
And despite your perception there, we're probably not professionals at this either. So, if you've seen some episodes, we do sometimes our sound's not exactly right and our video's not right, but we just have fun. We're right next to a brewery here in Humble. So it's, what else are you going to do here on a Friday?
No, you're doing it right. You're doing it right for sure. I mean, we've had a lot of fun with that particular subject over the years. And, we don't have the cameras rolling, but let me just tell you, especially in the early years, there was a little bit of that going on.
I'm sure.
Well, congratulations on launching this. How long have you been doing the podcast?
I think we're on episode 23 now, Bryce. And I think we've been pretty consistent that we've done it every week. So it's, I'm kind of proud of ourselves. It's a lot of work. It's not something where you just go in and you got to carry the hardware over there and carry the laptop. And, the guys over there are really cool, and they give us the opportunity and set aside a table for us to set this up every week. But I think they kind of look forward to being a part of it too. We'll bring them in to do some cameos from time to time.
Yeah, we've been very consistent with it, and it's kind of difficult to keep it fresh every week and find new topics to talk about. But I think I am being a little selfish here. I think we do a good job at bringing new topics to the table, and we try to have some guests on that can bring some value. So it's been a fun ride so far.
It's definitely lighthearted considering the fact that the name of it is Bolts and Hose. So we'll try to bring some fun side of it, but we'll also try to inject some technical side as well. There's probably a good mixture of people that watch it or even pay attention, but regardless, we're having a good time doing it. I'm sure there's a few people getting some nuggets of information out of it.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's a good mix, really, really pays off. Okay, so we have to start this off by saying, how did you come up with the name? We try to run a family show here, and what is that all about?
PG rated. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, I was just going to say, we started with the bolting business, and we bolted on a gasket business shortly after we started this, and then in the last year we started the hose business. And honestly, I don't know that we've ever been asked the question or we've even evaluated that really, but I think we just started to say our product offering here is bolts and hose. Considering the fact that we're big Talladega Night fan and Will Ferrell and Step Brothers fans, it's just natural that you start to say an inside joke about that. So when we started talking about marketing opportunities and how we promote ourselves, that naturally came to light. And somebody said we should have a podcast and we should call it Bolt and Hose. So, I think once that idea was out there was no stopping it.
And I didn't ever think it was going to happen. Yeah, I just thought it was one of those silly ideas you throw around in the conference room, and it's never going to happen. And then one day, Kris and I just said, "Let's go next door and record this podcast." And I think we both were a little nervous, but it's worked out well, I would say.
Yeah, I think I agreed that the concept was something that we could do. And then I think Bryce just came in one day in my office, and I still remember him at my door. He said, "Come on, let's do this podcast." So we just kind of threw everything together and went over there and did it. And, I think it was kind of a challenge between both of us that we could keep it going. So I think nobody's called mercy yet. So it just keeps going week after week.
Now, just so that listeners can get a better idea about who we're dealing with here, let's talk about your home base and how Patriot Bolt is all set up so we know where you guys fit in the organization.
So, I guess you could call me the vice president of sales here at Patriot Bolt. We're based in Humble, Texas, been in business 5.5 years. So we've really grown in the last 3 years in the manufacturing side of things and hot and heavy and just making specialty bolts. So, that's kind of where I stand. I guess I'm close to the market, talking with customers every day, just getting a pulse on what's going on next, where the big orders are, and, just managing the team here, making sure everyone's happy, has the tools that they need to be successful. So I would say that's really where I'm coming from.
I think from my standpoint, I just kind of carry Bryce's bags for the most part. So, I'm here and I do whatever needs to be done. I'd be considered the president, but I don't know that we really have a lot of titles around here. We just kind of all chip in and do what needs to be done. And it's fun that way. I think we all enjoy it. Myself, I'm involved in a few other businesses. We started, like I mentioned earlier, Patriot Bolt, and then Patriot Gasket, or Patriot Sealing Technologies. So we started that a few years ago, and that business has grown into a manufacturing location that we have here in Humble. And then we've got 2 locations of all places in the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, one location in Dubai and one location in Abu Dhabi, sorry. And then last year we started, like I said, the hose company. So, and that's based in Lafayette, Louisiana. So a lot of my time is spent, supporting those locations as well, just from a management standpoint.
Well, Kris, you guys just didn't start this business 5.5 years ago on a lark. So how did this all start?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily call us veterans in the fastener world.
Okay. It's kind of like the podcast. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it kind of is. I think we saw a need out there and we tried to fill a need. And like I said, I think you can be successful in anything that you do if you prioritize customers. I think that's the most important thing in any business. And I think that's what we realized when we started it, because where we came from, it was a corporate environment, and they just lost focus on, what's important. And they were looking at numbers and, looking how they could cut costs and cut commissions and whatever else. So, that just drives good people away. And it was Kris's brainchild. And, I don't know if he'd probably tell you that he didn't have an exact idea where this thing was going to end. I think ultimately we saw it as a business where we're going to make, specialty bolts, but how we were going to get there was another story.
Oh, I love this.
Yeah. When we started out, it was, I will admit, like Bryce says, it wasn't a very clear vision. I think we all recognize there was a void in the marketplace for a variety of reasons, not just based on the fact that the company had worked for previously had kind of dropped the ball a little bit. But I think just in the market in general, the void that existed for specialty bolts, and we just could tell while there were a couple of players out there, there was plenty of room for somebody else to begin another operation. So like Bryce said, when we first started, we really didn't know how it was going to transpire. But, I bought a couple of pieces of used equipment, a saw and a chamfering machine. And, the idea from a special standpoint back then was just taking threaded bar and cutting it into special lengths. And we did do that for the first couple of years. And, you had Bryce and I, loading up pallets in the back of our trucks and delivering them to customers. And it was very much a service oriented. I always made the comment that we were selling much more service than we were a product. So I think that's very much true in the beginning as much as it is today. But, we started doing that. And then, as we were brokering materials and buying materials out from other people and reselling them, we just quickly started to move in the direction of, hey, I found this used piece of equipment out there. And that's pretty much the way we've run our business. The way we run it today is that, we've just kept it very lean and very focused. And, we don't really get into a lot of commodity fasteners, a lot of import things like a lot of people do. Most all of our stuff is specialty manufactured on a CNC or a Landis machine, specialty threads, metric threads, Acme threads, anything with a special attribute that would prevent somebody from having it on the shelf or importing it in high volume. We're there focused on domestic manufacturing, quick turnaround, specialty alloys, and any type of special attribute, like I said, that would make it something that somebody needs domestic manufacturing.
Well, you're in a perfect position, it sounds like, to evaluate the trend of reshoring. So we talk about that a lot on the podcast. What's your take these days?
I think there's just a huge opportunity. I mean, obviously, COVID disrupted a lot of things. One of the biggest things being supply chain and, importing products. And I know a lot of people had issues just bringing over commodity items from, China, Taiwan, South Korea, India, wherever else. And, we kept our doors open and we answered phone calls. We went and saw customers, and I think it really brought some value, and people saw that, said, hey, these guys are willing to help us when we need help. And so, the more we've invested back into the company and brought in more equipment, we've just seen a lot more demand of people. They just can't get their parts anymore. Import product it's just a disaster in our eyes. I mean, I'm sure some people are still having a success doing it, but we got quality products. We can get them done extremely quick. If some equipment goes down, we can manufacture product and get it to you in a very, very timely manner. One of my biggest pet peeves with importing is, if you have a problem, how are you going to fix the problem? I mean, you call your manufacturer in China and say, hey, these parts that you sent me are trash. We can't use them. Okay, good luck. They're not going to stand behind their product. But if we make you something, I mean, I promise you, we strive to be perfect, but we're going to make mistakes. And if you call us, we're going to fix it, and we're going to do it quickly, and we're going to answer the phone and stand behind what we do. So I think that's the biggest benefit that you have of, bringing manufacturing back to the States and, just utilizing domestic manufacture. I mean, you get good quality raw material. I would say 90% of the material we're bringing in is going to be domestic. And then, we're getting DFARS material. So we're bringing in good metal, and you're dealing directly with a manufacturer. You can come witness and watch us. We can do first articles. So it's just, I think, much easier to get a good bolt in your hands when you're, manufacturing parts here in the States.
Well, those points are all well taken, but do you see or do you sense that these customers who are looking for parts because they're stymied by the current situation with the supply chain, are they shifting their mindset and saying, we're going to have to look for suppliers domestically now? I mean, is that a trend that you're experiencing? And if so, to what extent?
I think in our world, I mean, oil and gas, I think, is a little different. We do see the inquiries because honestly, Eric, we're set up we're a job shop, and, our game is to turn parts around quick. But we still see the parts. We still see people coming into us every day for inquiries on, we got one this morning. It was like someone wanted 2.7 million stainless hex cap screws. And they want it to be domestic. So those are the type of things. I mean, that's something that I would say 10 years ago, you're importing that every time, right? So I think people are definitely looking into domestic manufacturers.
I think everybody for the last 10 or 15 or 20 years, certainly before COVID, domestic manufacturers, with that offshoring phenomenon that you talked about, everybody is very drunk on the margins that existed with import product. You could get very inexpensive product from overseas And it was relatively easy. And that market developed over there very quickly. And a lot of the equipment was shipped over there. And you saw a lot of the major manufacturers doing it. I mean, you can easily see from import records the thousands and thousands of kilograms of material that's shipped over from one manufacturer on a monthly basis. And, people get very addicted to that. So, over time, that phenomenon has been going on for 20 years or so. And, the domestic manufacturing has subsided. I mean, obviously, you don't need the equipment and the people if you're able to import it that easily. And, since COVID started, since a lot of the tariffs have been in place, obviously, it hasn't been as advantageous, but I still think you find yourself in that position to where people are reluctant to add the equipment and the people back to domestic manufacturing. They're still just weathering the tariffs and weathering the storm in hopes that, eventually they still have their supply chains in place and that it'll just magically become profitable again one day. So I think there is this mentality that exists to where, they're just accepting lower margins at this point and waiting for the storm to pass. But, from our standpoint, we never were in that space, and we're not going towards that space at all. We're just focusing on domestic manufacturing. So the fact that people aren't investing in it as much is still continuing to benefit us because we're still, getting domestic material. We're getting, we're staying away from the imports and just manufacturing locally. And there's still a very high demand for that, not just from a monetary standpoint, but, people want a domestic made product and they want the material and the manufacturer to be of USA origin. And, there's just not a lot of people out there filling that void. So we're going to take advantage of it as long as we can.
Okay, well, that's the perspective that you have, and it's valuable to hear that. So then speak to what you see in that oil and gas market right now down there in Texas. I mean, it's something that a lot of people have been watching for years. It goes up, it goes down. Where does it sit now?
I think it is still strong. I think, the price of oil is stabilized. And I think the demand for oil is, obviously there. So we've seen just an incredible amount of demand. I think during COVID too, a lot of these end users, owner operators just ran their plants and not a lot of maintenance was done. And then once everything came back, it was just the demand was out of this world. So they were running harder than they've ever ran and, just pulling more oil out of the ground and, transferring it. And so you didn't see the routine maintenance being done like normal. And I think we've really benefited from that in the last year. And just from what I'm hearing on the streets, that's just going to continue. You're hearing some of the biggest refineries in the world and chemical plants having some of their biggest turnarounds ever. So, when you're stopping something, you're going to rip apart equipment that you've been running hard. And once you rip apart that equipment, there's going to be some big bolts in there. There's going to be some gaskets and equipment. And, you got to turn stuff around fast. So I think just that demand I see the next couple of years is going to be very strong. Obviously, there's some variables there. But, if everything just keeps going as is, I think it's going to be very, very good for everybody.
Wow, that's really interesting. So from the world as you see it, everybody's still in catch-up mode in that market.
I think so. I mean, I really do. Just because they run so hard. I mean, they're making, oil companies are making a lot of money right now. They're taking full advantage of not stopping their plants for turnarounds, for shutting down and fixing some stuff. So I think you've kind of seen that too. You've seen some situations where, unfortunate situations where you have some fires or, some small explosions, and some of these plants are feeling it just because they're not doing that maintenance.
Yeah, the ones that still survive are needing the maintenance.
Yeah, I mean, you heard Garyville, one of the biggest plants, Marathon, one of the biggest plants in the country. They just had a big tank fire, a couple weeks ago. There's been some situations down here in Houston, and I mean, it's going to happen when you don't do maintenance. There's going to be situations like that.
Well, that's a good, plausible explanation for it. I'm glad you actually said that, because I was starting to wonder, the way that the food processing plants are going up in flames these days. You never know.
And there might be something else to it. But I mean, they're like fertilizer plants. I mean, I know fertilizers, it's a huge, huge demand right now for that. And, there's a lot of fertilizer plants, I think, because Russia holds a lot over there. And so there's a big, strong demand for domestic fertilizers. And, they're blowing and going as well. So, that's going to be, I think, continued for the next couple of years.
Yeah, that's a huge subject to get into right there. Boy, wow. Well, so let me wind back to your podcast. Is this the kind of stuff that you talk about on Bolts and Hose, or how do you come up with your topics for that?
Bryce?
I think we drink a couple beers at the brewery and we say, what are we going to talk about today? And we throw some out there. We've had a couple guests on, which has been more of a planned situation. But then everything else is just, I hate to, crack the door open here, but it's just, we fly by the seat of our pants.
There's a lot of spontaneity around that as well. So there's, Bryce and I sit down about lunchtime after a pretty busy Friday, typically, and we say, hey, what do we want to talk about today? So typically we'll go out to the shop and grab a couple of parts, and we'll go over some of the interesting parts that we've got out in the shop. But then we can always come up with some technical, topic that exists. It's very common for us to just pick something that's randomly come up with a customer that day or that week and say, hey, let's talk about this. Because obviously if one person is looking for that answer, then there's probably a need for it and other people would benefit from it. So we're never short of content, I don't think.
So you always produce these on Friday afternoons, is that right?
Typically, I think that's the most common day. I mean, sometimes if one of us is out on a Friday, we'll try to shoot on a Thursday. But, I think that's the most common day we shoot the bolts and hose.
And there is a tendency to drink a beer while we're doing this. So, Friday seems to be the most appropriate day.
Yeah, okay. I was wondering the connection because the ones that I scanned, had a beer in every one.
That's the theme is we do it at a brewery, so we're not going to go over to the brewery and not drink their beer.
I get it. No, I'm right on board with you. I think some people in the audience are maybe going to get a few ideas too. I mean, have you ever had a featured episode where you talked about Old Rusty Bolt by any chance?
Kris we did do that episode. We talked about not the Old Rusty Bolt, but the Old Rusty Nut.
Rusty Bolt beer. Old Rusty Bolt beer, Bryce. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, right. Well, I know you're working with Marty Nolan.
Yeah, I forgot. Marty did tell us about the Old Rusty Bolt beer. We should feature that.
I think we need to get Marty to send us a 6-pack, and we could feature that on the podcast. I think that's a great plan.
Oh, I'm sensing guest appearance here.
I think so. That is a good point. We need to have Marty on. And that's one thing with all of your listeners. I mean, we can, cross-pollinate here a little bit. I mean, we're always open to, talking. We could have you on, Eric, and we can, any of your listeners, they can always reach out. And we like to just talk fasteners and talk the market and talk
and really,
shop.
We're not selfish on the thing either. We're about promoting other people's businesses, and if somebody wants to get on and talk about and talk about their wares, we're more than happy to help them promote their own stuff. So we're very open to that.
That's the only way to go. So you're going to be in Vegas at the International Fastener Expo coming up in October, right around the corner, and you'll be exhibiting. And this is what, your second year, third year?
Third year, and we're very excited. I mean, I'm hearing a lot of good things about Vegas this year. So, our third year. The first year we did it, I think there was a little bit of lull because of COVID. I don't think there was quite the attendance as it normally had. But for us, it was great.
That was a tough show.
We were the new kids on the block, so nobody knew us. And we had a really, really good show the first year, even though it was down in attendance. So, we realized the value that it brings, and the next year it was a little bit better. And so we're thinking this year it's going to be even better. And we got a really good spot. We got a bigger booth this year. We got a 20 by 20. I think we're right next to Lindstrom and Brighton. So I think we'll have a lot of traffic and be able to show off some cool parts.
Wow, right to the head of the class. That's impressive.
Yeah, we're excited.
There's discussion about having a live bolts and hose episode filmed at that location as well. So we're trying to put that together, Eric.
Okay, so this is going to be set up on the fly then. That's the guest appearance episode right there. That's where we're going to meet, and that's what's going to happen if it's cool with you guys. I'm sensing.
We would love it.
Yeah.
We would love it.
And I think they will have Old Rusty Bolt beer there, right? I'm sure they will. Somebody will have it.
I mentioned earlier in the podcast, actually, I ran into Tony Martinez of Buckeye Fasteners at where was it? Oh, it was at the MWFA last month. And he was thrilled because he had just gotten approval and put the order in. So the answer is, yeah, they're going to have kegs of Old Rusty on the floor at IFE this year after a short absence. So you're going to see the following that Old Rusty has, and you're gonna get on this wagon, boys.
I like
there's an episode coming together as we speak.
Exactly.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be good. Hey, we've been talking now for a few minutes, and we haven't even mentioned where people can go to get your podcast. I caught it on YouTube. Is that the main platform, or how are you pushing it out?
YouTube is where we have it posted, and then we'll cross-post it on social media like LinkedIn. But it is hosted on YouTube, and I think you can just go to YouTube and just type in Patriot Bolt, and that's the name of the channel that it's on.
And I think over time, I mean, we have so many followers right now. It's they can all find it, but I think in due time we're going to put it on probably podcasts on iTunes, and our marketing manager's working on that. So there'll probably be more places you can find it. But as of right now, YouTube is the spot.
It's good to have people, isn't it?
Absolutely. I wouldn't know how to put a podcast online, I'll tell you.
Well, who's doing the production for you? You've got a little bit of post-production on that thing, and you even have your own proprietary theme song, I noticed.
I don't know if it's proprietary. Kris is the man. Kris, he's kind of a tech geek. You tell him we're going to do a podcast, he's going to run out and buy 18 new microphones and 2 more webcams, and his office is full of Best Buy products.
I am a platinum member of Best Buy, yeah. So every podcast widget and gadget that you can buy, I think we own. So most of them don't work, though, as you can tell from the quality of the podcast.
Well, I tell you, I have a soft spot in my heart for just starting out because I'm almost, we'll put it this way, I don't go back and listen to our early episodes too often. I learned a lot over the years, and I think it's at a decent level now, but man, it came from meager beginnings, boys. So,
Eric, how long have you been doing this?
Well, I think we're in the 13th year.
13th year. Do you know how many episodes you have?
Well, this is 192 we're working on right now, and then we have a handful of special reports. In the early years, we started by doing 2 a month, and we just realized it was overkill for what we were trying to do.
Sure.
And so we're monthly now is basically our published schedule.
Nice. It's well done.
Well, we're still once a week right now, Eric. So, we may catch you in a year or so, maybe.
Well, there's a lot of ways to look at it, a lot of ways you could go, and it depends on what your focus is. But you'll take it where it needs to go. Now, as long as we're talking sort of inside baseball on the whole podcasting side of it, did you happen to catch Billy Duran over there at Threaded Fasteners? He just launched a podcast. We had him on a few episodes back also. I mean, he's doing a little bit of a different thing. He's doing a leadership-oriented podcast. It's called The Nuts and Bolts of Leadership. Very well put together, audio only, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, I haven't seen that. We'll have to check that out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Always interested to get some ideas and stuff too. So it'll be interesting to check that one out.
Yeah, he was on a couple episodes back. You can scroll down on the Fully Threaded page, and really cool guy. He'll be in Vegas for sure too. So I hope you get a chance to meet him.
That is one thing that, you brought it up earlier. We don't have a whole lot of fastener background. We jumped into it, and, it's amazing the community that you guys have, and, we're trying to be a part of. The fastener world, man, you guys are very connected, and it's awesome to see, just the variety of people and businesses out there, and, how much you've marketed and networked yourselves over the years.
Yeah, it's definitely a unique industry in that regard, and we hear it quite a bit, and I think you're on the right path to getting a toehold in it. Also hanging out with guys like Don Shan.
Yeah. No, you could tell Don's a legend, man. I mean, he just has that persona about him.
That's right. And so, we've been talking here for half hour. We're going to roll out pretty quick. And I didn't want to wrap up without bringing to your attention something that I caught. I think it might have been on episode 20. You guys apparently were traveling either with Marty or Don, maybe both. You came up to Ohio and you had a comment I'd just like to ask you about, if you don't mind.
Yeah, bring it on.
Come on.
Yeah. And I'm a big fan of Texas. Don't forget, you haven't met Brian Musker. He's the normal co-host of Fully Threaded, and his moniker is Lifetime Honorary Texan. So, our heart's down there. But
sure,
you guys happen to say this about Ohio.
It's just cool. You travel around, and I've never really been to where we went, and it's just a cool, beautiful area.
Beautiful. Yeah, you don't think of Ohio like that. The rolling hills. It looked a lot like Texas Hill Country, but a lot cooler.
And a lot more green.
Yeah. Nice rivers and water. I mean, it was a beautiful, beautiful place. Yeah. You don't think of Ohio all the time when you think of nice places, but it's great.
Well, here we go.
So I'm being called out now. Is that it?
Come on. Now I know you a little bit better, guys, but when I first saw that, I'm like, well, do I want to go through with this discussion?
I think you think of Ohio. I mean, I'm from Illinois originally. I was born and raised, so I'm a Midwest kid. Even coming from Illinois, I just always pictured Ohio as, you think of Toledo and Cleveland, and that Rust Belt. And man, I was blown away of just the beauty and the hills and the greenery, and it was just a very, very cool place.
Yeah, I think there's this rivalry too between Texas and Ohio when it comes to football, right? So I'm sixth generation Texan, so I go way back, and I would blame that comment on just the exposure that I've had with Ohio. I don't think that you guys market yourself as well as you should.
That's a fair comment, Kris. I'll accept that. I'll accept that for sure. And that was said like a true Texophile, and it's all cool. But I just couldn't let that pass after I heard it. Of all the things to dip into in one of your podcasts, Zoom. That's what I hit.
Yeah. Yep.
I think there's probably opportunity to maybe retire there one day or something. But it was definitely beautiful. We're coming as well from Texas, or Houston to be specific, and we had I don't know how many days of 100 degrees plus, and to go up to Ohio and experience 75 degrees in the middle of the summer is really refreshing. I mean, it can really take the life out of you down here by the end of the summer. But being up in Ohio, it really reminded you that there is another way to live.
All right. Well, you're forgiven, and I agree entirely. I'm a Chicago transplant now living in semi-rural Northeast Ohio, and the water's fine, put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful.
And it was a fine thing to talk to you guys today. I'm impressed with your podcast. You're having a lot of fun, and great to meet you guys, and look forward to seeing you out in Vegas.
Thanks, Eric. Look forward to meeting you out there, man.
Thanks for your time, brother.
Kris and Bryce are the hosts of the Bolts and Hose podcast. That's a new thing. I've got all kinds of ideas to talk about with these guys next time, and hopefully they feel the same way. So thanks for being here, guys, and we'll catch you down there, huh?
Sounds good.
BBI is your one-stop source for special per-print and hard-to-find items. Contact us for information about short-run parts, per-print, and part modification, including sourcing and rework items. BBI customers are now able to receive instant quotes directly for secondary processing. Visit BBI's quotation manager today at brightonbest.com. Tested, tried, and true. We are Brighton Best International. To learn more about Brighton Best, visit us at www.brightonbest.com.
At Worth Industry North America, we know that in today's world, you need a supply chain partner that you can depend on. We provide the products you need to keep your business moving. Data-driven inventory management solutions, industry-leading technology, and the global stability of the Worth Group, combined with an unrelenting commitment to local partnership. Discover superior supply chain security at www.worthindustry.com.
Stainless Dan here, coming to you from Star Stainless. Star quality is more than products, just the way Wayne wanted it to be. It's simple. We're Star.
Hey, boys and girls, it's Craig Penland with Eurolink Fastener Supply Service, and you are listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
Hope you enjoyed that conversation with Kris and Bryce of the Bolts and Hose podcast. Give them a thumbs up out there on YouTube. Sure was great to meet those guys. And we'll see them out in Vegas. Hope to see you out there. Brian said to make sure you stop by and hit him up for some Vegemite when we're out there. Whether you're going to do that or not, please do stop by booth 1066. FCH will be there. And it's right around the corner. Wow. October 9th through the 11th, Mandalay Bay. Be there. And winding this episode of Fully Threaded Radio up, let's thank all the guests on today's podcast. They were Don, the amazing Shan. He's got more S issues, folks, but help him out at Fastener Solutions. Charlie Kerr of Kerr Lakeside. Mr. Michael Knight of Endries joined McNulty on the Fastener News Report today. Good job covering that uptick in the FDI, gentlemen. Carmen Vertullo and George Munoz double-teamed the Fastener Training Minute today, and Kris Kolb and Bryce Oliveira of Patriot Bolt and the Bolts and Hose podcast. What a lineup, what an episode. Thanks for being here, everyone. The title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio are Brighton Best International, Tested, Tried, True, Brighton Best, Gobel Fasteners, Quality the First Time, Go Gobel, and Star Stainless. Right off the shelf, it's Star. Fully Threaded Radio is also sponsored by Buckeye Fasteners, BTM Manufacturing, Eurolink Fastener Supply Service, Fastener Technology International, InSequel Software, J. Lanfranco, Parker Fasteners, Solution Industries, 3Q Inc., Volt Industrial Plastics, the International Fastener Expo, and Worth Industry North America. Don't forget, folks, Worth is also doing wonderful things for the Fastener Training Institute. When you see them out in Vegas, let them know you really appreciate that. And we appreciate you listening to every episode of the podcast. It really does mean a lot. Let us know what you think, if you have ideas, questions, and so forth. If you want Lynn to maybe pack some extra special crackers for you when you have your Vegemite out there in Vegas, the email address is ftr@fullythreaded.com. Fire away. Closing the podcast today is a difficult thing because we've got some bad news. Since the launch of this podcast, we've gone through a lot together. Some good times, some bad times. We're mostly talking about business, but let's face it, there's always an undercurrent of personal relationships and friendships that are so important in this industry, maybe even more than some other industries. But the fastener industry lost a legend recently, and I'm speaking of Mark Strangquist. Real sad news when we got this. Hit a lot of folks hard. It would be hard to overstate the impact that Mark had on the lives and careers of so many people. And that's inside the fastener industry and in his life. He was generous with his time, he was loyal to his friends, and he was approachable. He had no trouble relating to people at all levels. I think that's one of the reasons that he had so many friends and followers. But he was also a hard-driving guy, and he looked for excellence in those around him. He could see the big picture and mobilize people to do what it takes to go for it. He was a sales guy at heart, but he worked his way to the top of the game, and he played it like a champ. He took hits along the way, but he kept going, he kept growing, and he kept smiling through it all. For my part, I had the good fortune of connecting with Mark through our mutual love of the outdoors and fishing, and musky fishing in particular. And lots of people have heard about his legendary annual fishing tournaments. Matter of fact, he called them, during the Wisconsin years of that tournament, the Legends of Boulder Junction. I can't tell you how many hats and T-shirts and fleeces and things I have with that logo embroidered on them. He and Vonda were always so good with that. This was held up in northern Wisconsin at his fishing camp. He called it a fishing camp. It was more like a compound. It was an amazing place. Guys had come in from all over the country. He had some Worth guys from Europe there several years, and it would be a few days just to kick back and talk fishing. Very little business talk, really, if any, went on during those tournaments, and they weren't really tournaments either. They were fishing trips where old friends and new friends would get together and enjoy the scenery and the activity. And it was just a wonderful thing during those few years that I was blessed to be part of it. Give you one example of how they went all out to make it just a fantastic, unbelievable experience. There'd always be a group of us out on Marks Lake. We'd disperse across several lakes during the various days, but when you'd be out on Marks Lake, at some point during the morning, you'd see a pontoon boat coming across the water, and it'd be Vonda, and she would dock up next to your boat while you'd be out there on the water, and she'd have hot coffee and cinnamon rolls for you. I mean, where in the North Woods does that ever happen? Nowhere. But it was great. I mean, you felt like you were really getting concierge service, and she really knew how to take care of the crew and seemed to really enjoy doing it. Mark and Vonda, just fantastic hosts, and everyone appreciated it. Everyone worked together and had a good time, and you could tell the whole time Mark was just loving it. This is what he really loved to do. And years before I ever came into that group, you know, they were doing this in much more modest ways down in southern Illinois, as I understand it. I think they were actually just channel cat fishing. So I only got a taste of the later years of all that, but you could tell these guys had fished and hunted together for years, some of them, and a lot of memories were made during those events. I know a lot of you are real big golfers and you have other things that you do and you bond together. But I tell you, when you sit together with a guy for 8, 10, 12 hours in a boat, go through a few things, overcome some challenges, maybe losing a $40 rig in the rocks. That's happened a few times. You really see how a guy reacts to little setbacks. Says a lot, and you grow a lot. I just feel so fortunate that I had the chance to get to know Mark that way, and many of you, it's clear, had similar opportunities, maybe not in the same way, but that was my special way, and I feel very fortunate for it. Mark helped the podcast quite a bit. I looked back, and it was something north of 20 appearances he made. A lot of times that was connected with his FDI analysis, and every month, whether he was on the podcast or not, he'd always shoot me a comment about the latest numbers. He was always involved with that, always very generous with his observations and insights. I'll miss that a lot. I thought a good way to really salute Mark was to go back in the archives, and in particular, I found one from October of 2020. This was when he'd moved over to Annixter, and he was setting up over there, and he was reflecting on his kidney transplant. A lot of you knew he did not hide that. He shared that openly with people. And knowing him as he went into that and through it, and then afterwards, it was very obvious what a courageous and good-natured person he is, because he endured it and he thrived. And I think his comments here are inspirational for anyone to listen to. So we'll close with that today in salute of our old friend. For Brian Musker, this is Eric Dudas. I think Mark would agree. You should get out there and sell some screws. We'll talk to you soon.
One of the initiatives is we're going to consolidate everybody into one building. And so we have space in the Wooddale facility to do so, believe it or not. It's going through construction right now. So we're completely revamping a section of the office part so that we can fit everybody in there. And now we're going to be one team. There's no more silos. There's no more corporate. I always hated the ivory palace mentality, meaning,
right.
You know, you have corporate up in the ivory palace, and they're not really connected to the revenue generating locations. And so there's always, you know, this thing about being out of touch and being better than others. And I don't tolerate.
You're not an ivory tower kind of guy, Mark.
I'm not. Maybe that's bad. I don't know, but I don't. I'm not. I'm a simple fellow that grew up in Illinois in the Midwest, and I'm not into that. So we're going to put everybody in one building. So now, if someone wants to talk to someone, we don't shoot an email and hope we get an answer. You can just get up from your desk, walk over, and talk to the other person, and you'd be able to do the fun stuff where, and it sounds stupid, but whether it's like one thing we did over at Wooddale was we had kind of a cookout thing on a Friday. even in the COVID environment, we followed all the right precautions, but everybody wore their Chicago Cub outfit, right? And I even went out
Nice.
and I went and bought a Chicago Cub hat, and because I really wasn't a Cub fan necessarily, but I thought, I did what I could to blend in, and now we'll be able to do that more as a group now, and even silly things like an ugly sweater day or Christmas celebrations. I mean, we'll be one team, within the corporate structure and all the leadership, and then of course we always have our branches, and we're scattered all over the globe. But, these are the types of things that I think are important culturally that would separate us. I don't want to be a corporate-centric type of a company. I don't believe in that. I mean, corporate is here to support anybody that's generating revenue, the plants, the branches, the people out in the field to do the real work. I expect corporate, they're not here to support corporate. We're here to support them. And that's one thing that I insist on is, we're not corporate centric, that all we do is say, what else do you need? What else do you need? What resources can we provide? How do we make your life easier? That's the mentality and the culture I want out of leadership. And that's the type of stuff we're doing. So I'm really happy. Sometime around the Christmas holidays, we hope to move in and get out of this building and save some money and then get the tremendous benefit culturally.
Right. So you're aware of the bottom line, but you're also culturally aware as well. Well, that's really interesting, Mark. And of course, we'll all be watching to see how you roll this out. I'm guessing that increased revenues are in your future. You've said a lot about your personal style here. I wanted to give you the chance also to discuss something that we touched on in an earlier episode of Fully Threaded Radio. This is going back a little ways now, but recently you overcame a personal challenge in your life, and that's led you to this point, and it's a big part of who you are and how you approach things. Would you care to update everyone on that?
Well, I believe you're referencing, I had several years ago, I'd got a kidney disease that basically was unable to get fixed in time. And so I ended up having to have a kidney transplant. And so I've had the good fortune of recovering nicely and certainly not, damaging my perspective on life and makes you put more value to it. But I've been very fortunate to overcome that. It was a difficult time, and going through that process and going through the after effects and, the side effects you get from I'm a high risk guy. So in this COVID environment, I have to be careful about travel, being a high risk guy, and because I'm on anti-rejection drugs, which I'll be on, the rest of my life in terms of protecting me from rejection of the new kidney and all that. So, so I appreciate you bringing that up. But I'm proud of the rebound and the ability to continue on and not just feel sorry for myself and, go hide in my house and not do anything. That's why this job is so perfect for me. And I'm very pleased and I appreciate American Industrial Products. They're the ones that own Optimus, and they've just been phenomenal in support for this year and, and what I do. So I love what I'm doing, and I'm not using that issue as something that holds me back. And hopefully I'm a good example of life after transplant and what you can accomplish and do after dealing with some type of difficult situation like that.